This past weekend, fear, panic erupted as mass peaceful protests across this country resulted in fires, destruction, injury, several arrests, and even a few National Guardsmen being treated for injuries after taking live fire. Peaceful protesters are outraged over several police killings. Doesn't it seem kind of insane to say something like that? But that's what the media tends to do. Peaceful protesters with an Apple store burned to the ground. Maybe an exaggeration. An Apple store was burned out almost completely in Portland. Now, I guess they can't really say you're a peaceful protester when you literally burn down an Apple store. So we're going somewhere new. Willamette Week says marchers set fire at Apple store and shatter windows across downtown Portland after police killing. The scale of damage tonight recalled the riots last May. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. Willamette, you're going to call them riots last May, but now you're going to call these people marchers? They can't do it. You know why? They know that if they call these people rioters, they'll come for them. So they can call it a riot last May, but right now, no, they're marchers. Marcher. What is that? A marching band? People going around with marching band gear and they're smashing things with their drum sticks or whatever they're doing? Sure, I guess. Well, right now, most of you probably know that riots erupted across the country. Many are concerned that this is going to interfere with the Chauvin trial as closing arguments are set to begin today. And deliberations will begin today as well. Many fear that because of the mass riots across the country, it is very likely that, it's very likely that the jury is going to be scared. And if they're scared, they will say, please just take away the rights of Chauvin, regardless of the evidence, because we are scared about what will happen to us. Some jurors have already expressed fear that if people find out who they are, their lives will be ruined. Oh, and you better believe it. So I think there's a strong possibility Chauvin is found guilty on all charges. No joke. Which brings me to the main story, the most horrifying part of what's going on. First, I want to show you this from Unicorn Riot. On April 17th at 11:35 p.m., U.S. Rep. Maxine Waters is speaking out about police violence and racism in Brooklyn Center. We are live now. We then have this from the Minnesota National Guard. They say this was 11:43 a.m., April 18th, just around 12 hours later. A Minnesota National Guard and Minneapolis PD neighborhood security team was fired upon early Sunday morning in a drive-by shooting near Penn Avenue and Broadway in Minneapolis. The shooting occurred on or about 4:19 a.m. as a light-colored SUV fired several shots at a Minnesota OSN security team providing neighborhood security. No team members were seriously injured. 2 Minnesota National Guard members did sustain minor injuries from the incident. One guardsman sustained an injury from shattered glass requiring additional care and was taken to a local hospital to receive treatment. The other guardsman received only superficial injuries. So it's just one guard being sent to the hospital, one with superficial injuries. And I think the officer, the National Guardsman who went to the hospital for lacerations probably wasn't that severe. But I'd imagine going to the hospital probably meant he required stitches of some sort. Let me just make this absolutely clear for everybody. This past weekend, what we literally are looking at a story where people opened fire on the Minnesota National Guard. Is this insurrection yet? Is it insurrection to shoot at National Guardsmen? I'd have to say so. I mean, it was probably insurrection when they were throwing firebombs at a federal building. But for some reason, the FBI is saying, please help us find the people who stormed the Capitol. Sure. Yeah, okay. But it's just weird that they've done nothing about widespread rioting over the past year. Why are we sitting here watching this happen? You know what, man? Get out of the cities. I did. I got away from the city, and for a variety of reasons. Yeah, it's nicer. It's freer. You know, out in the middle of nowhere, you can kind of just do your thing. You're not bothering anybody. You're not being bothered by other people. It's great. And I don't got to worry too much about riots because ain't nobody gonna come riot when there's like a couple houses. You know, the population density is very, very small. Well, here's where we're at. Let me show you this. Republicans demand action against Maxine Waters after Minneapolis remarks. I love how they immediately try to make it seem as though, you know, Maxine Waters didn't do anything wrong and Republicans are extremists because Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling for action. We have the story from Insider. Marjorie Taylor Greene says she'll introduce a resolution to expel Rep. Maxine Waters for continual incitement of violence. I agree with this. I absolutely do. Maxine Waters, when she was speaking, the reason I showed you that timestamp, she said it was first-degree murder. And if we don't get a first-degree murder charge, then we got to stay in the streets and get more confrontational. Okay. The level of confrontation that we're seeing so far is like they're shooting at the National Guard. But okay, that happened after she said this. So Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to expel Maxine Waters. What do we get? The Guardian says extremist congresswoman. That's what they call her, an extremist congresswoman. Sure. I don't care what you think about Marjorie Taylor Greene, what things she's said in the past. I'm talking about whether or not Maxine Waters should be removed. And the answer is yes. Throughout this past weekend, we saw an Apple store burn, like it burned out. I don't want to say it burned to the ground, but they destroyed an Apple store. It was rubble. It was like the building was standing, but you could go inside and everything was just destroyed. You have people, live gunfire this past week. No joke, like active live gunfire ringing out through the air in the Minneapolis area. We have mass rioting that Willamette Week says is akin to last May's riots. And Maxine Waters has the nerve to come out and say, do more, over and over again. Do more, she says. Get more confrontational. Inciting insurrection. Because it was about 5 hours, just shy of 5 hours, after she said that someone opened fire on the National Guard. It's absolutely amazing to me to be in this to be at this point with the riots and with the Democrats continually inciting and supporting this violence and destruction. And you know what? You know what I'm really mad about? I'm actually at this point mad about the police. I'm mad about the police, I know. And I've been saying things like the entire police department of Minneapolis and the surrounding cities should resign. And all the leftists are like, yes, here. And I'm like, not for the reason they're saying. I'm saying it because you have no support. The people who live there are mad at you. They don't like you. They vote against you. Not all of them, I know, but enough, a majority, the ones who vote for the Democrats. The Democrats, literally, you have Maxine Waters coming to your town. It's amazing. And telling people to burn it to the ground. Figuratively, I know, but let me just say this. When she said that Chauvin, what he did was first-degree murder. First-degree murder is premeditation. She's arguing that at some point, Chauvin was like, I decided to kill that guy. That's just insane. He's not even charged with that. And she says something to the effect of, if he's not convicted of first-degree murder, then we got to get out in the streets. And it's like, he wasn't charged with that. They can't convict him for a thing he wasn't charged with. Yeah, here we go. You know, there was a period where cops would typically get found not guilty in most instances. Why? Well, because the jury understood that police officers were being asked to go out and do these jobs. And I was reading this letter that's going viral. It's being shared around supposedly from a cop. I'm not showing it because I can't vet it, but there's a good point made in this letter where the cop says, members of the public expect you to be a medical expert, that if someone's in distress, you know exactly what to look for and what to do. They expect you to understand the psychological effects of mental illness and how to respond to people who are mentally ill. They expect you to be a psychologist. They expect you to be a medical expert. They expect you to use the perfect amount of restraint and force against someone who is resisting. They expect you to be a martial arts master and a marksman. And it's funny. It's a really good point. Cops enforce the law. They're not masters of every single one of these trades. And a social worker couldn't do it either. And it's amazing then that, well, there are still cops who are remaining on the job. This is what gets me angry. This letter was basically saying cops should leave. It's time to leave now. How long are you going to sit in a police station while it's burning to the ground? And I'm like, please just do it. It's a win-win. They don't want you there. The people of Minneapolis don't want you there. They keep telling you to get out. And you think I'm protecting people. They are literally trying to sacrifice you for a political cause while screaming in your face to leave. And they won't? I'm sorry, man. If at this point, you have Maxine Waters coming out and saying, do more, encouraging and inciting violence. And you're a cop in this area and you're like, I'm going to stay. Don't expect me to stand up for you. Sorry. That cop, Kim Potter, they're apparently, according to Axios, they spent $9,000 barricading her home. I have no sympathy whatsoever. Okay, that's not true. I have some sympathy. I understand. I don't blame her for what people are doing to her, but I am sick of these people sitting in a burning building. And no matter how many times we're saying like, y'all need to get out, they're like, nah, it's cool, mate. Or at the very least, you have a burning police station and there are several officers surrounded by fire and the people who set the fire are laughing outside. And we say, would you like to come out of the building and arrest these people? And they're like, I might. I'm going to stay where I'm at. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you something. There is a figurative ideological fire burning. And the thing is, you have these cops that are being screamed at by the people of the neighborhood to let the department burn, not realizing that it's a public service building that they require. And I think the only way that people will get the message is when the cops finally say enough and just walk away. And that's what this letter was basically saying. It's time to walk away. But they won't do it. Maybe because they're scared, maybe because the money's better and they feel safer doing this. Well, I'll tell you what, if that's the case, don't be surprised when you have a guy wanted for aggravated robbery, armed with a .45, resisting arrest, and you shoot him one time and they lock you up and then have to barricade your home. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think that the year-long riots with impunity and support from the vice president would somehow just sweep past you and you would not be affected by this? Sorry, man. Don't expect me. I get it. I think it's horrifying what's happening to this woman. I think it's horrifying this young man lost his life. I don't want anybody to die. I oppose the death penalty, as most of you know. But guy wanted for aggravated robbery with a gun, resisting arrest and diving into his car. What am I supposed to say to that? Don't resist arrest and run. It's funny when people are like, Ashley Babbitt shouldn't have resisted. Dude, she was peeking her head through a window. She shouldn't have gone in the building. That I get. But like, she was peeking her head through a window. She had no idea what was going on. If a cop comes up to you and grabs you to arrest you, you put your hands behind your back, you get arrested. You deal with it through the process. We have the luxury of court. And it's not perfect. By no means. The Guardian tries to make it out a bit like Maxine Waters, they cut out the most important parts of what she said, in my opinion. She said, I'm going to fight with all of the people who stand for justice. We've got to get justice in this country and we cannot allow these killings to continue. We've got to stay in the street. We've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business. I think shooting at the National Guard may have been that. Thanks, lady. Maybe burning down an Apple store. Maybe that was it. Maybe a year of riots. We know they're serious. They're insane. Honestly, at this point, I blame the cops. You know why? I blame the cops because they're the ones holding the system up. They burned so many places to the ground, leaving rubble behind that many people could not even afford to rebuild, even with insurance, because the insurance didn't cover the total costs of the destruction. It's crazy. Rubble removal. And if at that point, all of the cops announced, we will be resigning en masse and you will have no police, this would have ended a long time ago. There would have been a revolt in the city. Why? Well, when they voted to abolish the police in Minneapolis, local residents started freaking out because crime began skyrocketing. The city then doubled back and panicked and spent millions to recruit more cops. Who would want to be a cop at this point? I can't believe there are people staying. I'm surprised. I got to say it. Well, the official report, shots fired at National Guard and Minneapolis police members. To me, it's absolutely insane that anybody would sit back and be like, I'm cool with this. I'm fine with it. Some people have said to me, Tim, the cops that are willing to stay know that they're being sacrificed, but want to protect their communities. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hear that. I can respect it to a certain degree, but it's wrong. It is wrong. If the people voted for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and they did, and they both supported the rioters, they did. Kamala Harris literally solicited donations to get them out of jail, and Joe Biden's staff supported them. I understand Joe Biden has spoken out against violence, but actions speak louder than words. The people around him are supporting this. And the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota voted for these people. Who are you protecting? If all of the cops just walked out and said, fine, you want to abolish the police, you don't want us here, we will go. Well, then, the people of Minneapolis in 3 days would be panicking. You know what it reminds me of? Have you guys ever seen Hancock? That's what it's called, Hancock. It's Will Smith plays that drunk superhero. And then, what's that guy's name? Jason, what's his face? Tells him, go to jail. And trust me, in a few days, they'll be begging for your release because Jason Bateman is his name, because they need the superhero. So Will Smith agrees to go to jail, and then all of a sudden crime skyrockets, and then they call for his release because they desperately need this superhero. That's kind of it. The cops that are sticking around and supporting this are providing just enough support for the community that it placates the politicians while the city still burns. The cops aren't actually protecting anybody. They can't stop the riots. They can arrest some people and the DAs let them go, and then nothing happens. So if the cops just walked away, you'd get the same amount of damage. You'd get the same amount of prosecutions, but the people might start going, wait a minute, what's happening? Minnesota Daily reports proposed bill would make protesters convicted of an offense ineligible for student loans. I guess they're going at them where it hurts, I suppose. The bill comes amid many arrests at protests for Dante Wright, a young black man, as we understand. I mean, that's the gist of the story. These laws, they don't do anything. You know why? No one is going to get convicted. The DAs won't prosecute them because people voted for DAs that support the riots. And the cops aren't smart enough, apparently, to realize that. So they're going out in the street, making arrests of people who then get cut loose immediately. You know, I love, and I mean this figuratively. The woman who was accused of burning burning down the Apple store in Portland had been previously arrested and had all of her charges dropped. She could have been in jail for committing crimes, and then she would not have been able to burn down an Apple store. Oh, I'm sorry, not the Apple store. The Portland Police Bureau. And then when they arrest her for the fire at the Portland Police Bureau, they release her without bail. It's incredible. How dumb do you have to be to think you're helping your community by going out there and facilitating the lies of these politicians? If they want to pander to ignorant, politically nihilistic individuals, let them do it. And then when that person wakes up to find that their neighborhood's burnt to the ground, look, man, you voted for it. Here's the problem I see with a lot of arguments. They assume that these people don't want their homes burned down. I got to stop you right there. If somebody is sitting in their house watching a video of a house burned to the ground, and then a politician comes on and says, "Come on, man, I support these rioters." Kamala Harris is like, "Donate to get the rioters out of prison." You're like, "I like that. I like that they're the things they're doing. I'm going to vote for that." They vote for it. Their house burns down. I can only imagine they're sitting there smiling, saying like, "I'm so glad my home burned down. I voted for this." At the very least, if someone sticks their hand on a fire, I'm like, "You chose to do that. What am I supposed to do? I am not, the babysitter for you. You're an adult human being." This is the world we're in right now. These people are consistently voting for this insanity. And then the cops go out and just do nothing. What they do does nothing. It changes nothing. And instead, it creates this basic level of resistance that makes some people think nothing can be done. Well, fine. Whatever, I guess. It's only going to get worse. What do you think is going to happen with Chauvin? You know what I mean? Maxine Waters said, unless he gets convicted of first-degree murder. Okay, well, he wasn't charged with that, so that's not going to happen. So they're going to go and burn the city down again. They just want an excuse. I don't think they really, in the end, care about Chauvin or the conviction or anything like that. So I think Maxine Waters should be removed. Absolutely. Just if we go on the standard of how they treated Donald Trump with the Capitol, he never even directly said to do anything. In fact, Trump said to be peaceful, and they called it insurrection. Why? Because he kept saying something was wrong. Fine. Maxine Waters told people to go do something. She told them to ramp things up, to be more active. The Chauvin trial is wrapping up very, very. The trial is wrapped up. Closing arguments. Well, I should say closing arguments are today. So that's trial wrapping up. Then it's going to go to deliberations. The jury is going to be sequestered following this. But I just wonder why it is they weren't sequestered over the weekend. Because I said we're going to see mass riots over the weekend. The jury is going to watch it all happen because no one can escape this reality. No one can hide from this news. And now they're sitting in court going like, well, if we acquit him, they're going to burn my house down. Congratulations, my friends. Terrorism has taken over our justice system, and that's reality. I think it's a strong possibility they will convict Chauvin out of fear. Now, if they stand on principle and on the facts, then I think it's entirely likely that Chauvin may get charged with manslaughter. I'm sorry, not charged with, convicted. But it's I think on the merits of the case, not guilty on all charges. I do think a strong possibility may be a hung jury, meaning that some refuse to convict him and say, I don't care. That, because if it were me, I'd say, you can threaten me all you want. I'm voting my conscience. And based on what I've seen so far, I don't think the state has proven anything. I don't. I think Chauvin should be acquitted on all charges. I think the system is broken. I think we should go after the system itself. But throwing an individual under the bus when the system itself, the police department and the state are responsible for the actions at play, it's a ridiculous notion to me. And it's to placate the rioters, I suppose, which it won't do. It just fans the flames. The idea is the state will throw Chauvin under the bus. What's this the system the state created? Chauvin was following, basic training, ground control techniques. So I'm not happy with how things go down. I'm not happy with the war on drugs. But the war on drugs is the state's fault. It's the federal government's fault, not one cop who was like, I'm told to go do this. I'll tell you this, the cops should leave. I think there's a strong possibility of a hung jury, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to be tuning into the closing arguments. We'll see what happens. And in my opinion, the state has proven nothing. But I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.